I'm putting this together for two reasons. The first being, if I ever have to do this again, it's a great refresher course because it was quite a learning experience. I'm just a newbie at this. And the second reason is, in case anybody else is running into this, they'll have a nice starting point on how to walk through this process. I am no means an expert, so I would probably not send me any questions. Most likely, I'm not going to be able to answer them. I do owe pretty much everything that I've learned to this Reddit thread here that I'll post in the description. And this gentleman just worked his butt off to help me out. Big thumbs up to him as well. And I'll be referring to some of the things that were said in here as we go along. So what I ran into here is I've got an album. It's a 2 CD album with consisting, well, it's actually 2 CDs with 4 albums. So there's 2 albums on each CD. And so it wasn't in the MusicBrainz database. I did a search of that. And that was a learning experience in itself. And the Reddit link that I'm going to post will have some links to some MusicBrainz posts that'll give you quite an education on how to search within MusicBrainz website here. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over that and just concentrate on how to add an album into the MusicBrainz database once you determine that it finally, does not exist. So they've got Disc Dogs, I got lucky and I found the exact album here in Disc Dogs. That's why I've got this page open. There's a button over here. It says, well, you've got the search in MusicBrainz, of course, and then you've got import into MusicBrainz. And it does a pretty good initial job, but, does leave a lot to be figured out after that. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that button, and it opens up a new page. You want to confirm that, you're actually going to do a new submission. I'm going to say continue, and there we go. So basically, this is what it initially brought in. And so I don't think I had set this, I guess. So you got to set the language, of course. So you've got the obvious, the title of the album, the artist, release group, all that fun stuff. So you go through the basics and fill out all of this out, all the missing data. And then down here is where I ran into my first problem. And I misinterpreted this red warning here that said this label catalog number pair already exists. And my brain ignored the fact that it said pair, and I thought it was saying that the catalog number that, this release, this CD set already existed. So it brought me down this rabbit hole of, trying to figure out different ways to search the database to find it. And going back to that Reddit thread, that'll help you out there, where they pointed out that it was saying the pair existed. And so, in other words, this catalog number is listed here in this import twice with 2 different labels. So oddly, even though the label is listed here, the database here, the interface, isn't recognizing that until you actually click the search button and click on it. And so now it goes away, and you can do the same thing here and click on it. And so you can go ahead and add both labels, but I was told that it's probably best to just choose one. And that one being, if I open up the one of the booklets here, the label that's used, this one here, I guess it's the logo, the one that's used here in the logo is the better one to use rather than the one listed over here, Avid Entertainment. So let's get this out of the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this, just X out, and you're done. It's already, brought the barcode in and things like that. Your annotation is kind of like notes and stuff like that about this. And so once again, I was really lucky with over here in Disc Dogs. And so I brought in this information right here. It was very important. So I just simply copied and pasted this. And then you can, of course, make this bigger if you want, and, you know, clean it up a little bit, whatever you need to do. And so then I think I was pretty much done with this tab. And then you just go to new release updates, and there wasn't anything here. Similar releases, so I do not use any of the above releases as a starting point. So I selected that and I moved on to the track list. And this was a learning experience in itself here as well. So it's important to first point out here that you've got this expand and collapse icon here button. So if you collapse, there's, you know, it helps you to get a better idea of what's going on. So basically, medium is the CD. So this is CD1, CD2. And you notice it only says Jazz Giant. If I bring up the booklet again, okay, you can see that it's actually 2 albums, as I mentioned earlier, on each CD. So the first CD is Jazz Giant, and then Swingin' in the 20s, and then the second one is Sax a la Carter, and then Aspects. So I'm over here on this page trying to figure out, well, how do I, you know, because it's only referencing one title here. And so when I expanded this, you know, the first thing you've got to do is figure out the artist. You've got to match that up. And once again, I just used, you know, the booklet to help me match that up. And tracks 1 through 7 are the first album on the first CD, and then 8 through 20 are the second album on the first CD. So I'm looking for a place here where you tell it that, you know, it's a different album, and there's no column here for album. You know, you can go in here and change who the artist is. Right here, when I clicked on the edit button, this is where I was like, where do I change the album, right? The medium title. I need to create another medium in my mind because I hadn't learned that the medium was just actually a CD. So what I did here, I've got this page open again with editing that I'd already done. And so what I learned was it was via Reddit again, was just to put in a slash and then the name of the second album on the same CD. And so apparently that should be an acceptable way to submit this release. So I'll flip back to the new one that we just started working on. So that was a learning experience in itself. And I got all that figured out. And you've got some checkboxes down here. This just has hidden pre-gap track before track and contains data tracks at the end and stuff like that. So I didn't get in any of that. Keep all uppercase words uppercased. For naming things, you can refer to the Reddit thread again, because there's a link in there for specific naming conventions, when you should capitalize the words like, you know, the and of, and, you know, things like that. So that's a learning process as well. And then we get into recordings over here. And another place was a little bit of a learning process. So what you're supposed to do is for each track, you're supposed to go through and see if that track by that artist, okay, as a combined match already exists. And so I think what I'm going to do is flip over to the one I've already done a lot of work on over here, because it'll maybe save some time. So I'm going to go over here to recordings, and I can just go ahead and click edit. And you can see that if I compare what I've done here to this new one here that we haven't done anything with, right? The default is always add a new recording. So if you do nothing, it's just going to add this new recording, which isn't the proper way of doing it. The proper way is to look at the list and see if you can match this up to an existing one. Okay, and so in this case here, I matched it up. If I flip back over to the one I've already done, it matched it up to this one here. It appears on what album? Jazz Giant right here. So Old Fashioned Love appears on Jazz Giant, which is the album that it's on this 2 CD set. So I simply click that button, and then if you click the next button, it takes you to the next song. And so now we're on I'm Coming to Virginia. And I did the exact same thing, right? So tracks 1 through 7 are all on Jazz Giant. So I'm looking for the name of the thing here, and then I'm just looking for where do we see Jazz Giant. So this would be the match. This one over here would not be the match. And if we skip ahead and we go over here, we got, so now we're on, a different CD, or excuse me, the same CD, different album. And so now we're on Swing in the 20s. And so I chose this release. I'm not looking for Jazz Giant anymore. So I went through each one of these and matched them up. The only one I had a little confusion on after I did this, where is it? It was called I Understand, I think. Yeah, so this one here, Understand, here it was. So the only real match it was is Sax a la Carter. That's the only place that came up is without the word I, just Understand. So I'm going to just accept the default on this one. I don't know if it's correct, but whoever's proofing this, I'm sure they'll figure that out for me. So I'm just going to say add a new recording on that one. Okay. And so when you're all done, you just next tab, and it's kind of like a summary here, and you can go through and make sure everything's matching up the way it should. So I guess this is kind of like a proof listing of what you've done here. And then there's my notes that I copied and pasted in. I can go ahead and edit the notes again. I'm just going to flip back to one of these other tabs to see if maybe I might have overlooked something. So Benny Carter and his orchestra. Yep, that's all good. But anyways, this was quite a learning experience. I would have been completely lost if somebody didn't have the patience to hold my hand through this. So hopefully this helps a lot of other people. And if I ever have to go through this again, I know it's going to help me.